We're nearly there. You're happy? Well, welcome to the World Storytelling Cafe. And we have crisscrossed the world in the last 3 months, and COVID has been very good to us. So tonight I thought, why not a Mela, a celebration, a festival with music or singing, dance, stories, poems. However, at last, okay, I'm getting signals that I'm disappearing too high off the screen. Right, there we go. So at last, COVID has caught up with us, and whether it's COVID or well, two of our performers, one has been ill on and off through this, and we're not sure. The test will take a day what it's about. But we send, and that's our singer Samir Malik, and we send our best wishes to her. And Amaji, my Bhangra dancer, was unfortunately his father was taken into hospital last night, and his mother's very ill. So we send our best wishes to Amaji. So tonight is going to be a very literary Mela. It's going to, which actually is fine. We can celebrate storytelling, or we can celebrate poetry, and it's particularly fitting that a big literary festival is from the subcontinent, because at the far north, during the most repressive times in Pakistan, when the newspapers were censored, and the only people that could be heard were poets. 5,000 people used to gather to listen to a poet. And it was the only voice, it was the only alternative voice in the country with the poets. So it's not just something a little on the side. It's not a little salt on the pepper on the side of the plate. Literature is the very center of the subcontinent, and it should be, as it should be around the world. So we're going to have stories and poems, and we're going to start off. And can you please do a big world storytelling welcome? I'm sure there are more people than there are actually in the room listening to this. For our storyteller for the night, Deepsa Vivekanand. Hey, well, hello, how are you?
Very well, thank you so much for having me. This is lovely. Thank you, John.
We can have the first story.
Sure. I was waiting for you to give me the cue to start.
Well, yes, it's very difficult. I have no curtains that I can open, and and you're not suddenly on stage with the house lights up. Imagine the curtains have been pulled aside, the house lights are up, and the spotlight is on you. The audience have given their round of applause. You've allowed the deafening sound of applause to settle down, and you slip in to your first story.
Thank you. That's more like it. So namaste, everybody. Sat Sri Akal, as they say, from where I come from. I'm talking to you today tonight for me, from Chandigarh in Punjab, in the north of India. And Sat Sri Akal is what they say. Namaste, as they say in India. Good evening, good morning, wherever you are. So the first story I'm going to tell you today is called Abdul from Kabul. A story from India, nevertheless, but about a man who lived in Kabul once upon a time. And it goes like this. Long, long ago, there was a man named Abdul. Now, Abdul lived in Kabul, in Afghanistan. And he was an adventurous man, and he often liked to set off on journeys to discover new lands and places. He would come back from his travels with gifts and stories to tell his people. Abdul had been hearing about this country called Hindustan. He had heard about its bustling markets, its festivals, its melas, the kings, the queens, the palaces, and everything else. And so he decided to go and check it out for himself. So one fine morning, he got up, he washed, he got dressed in his salwar kameez, put on his waistcoat, tied his turban, packed some food for the journey, and he set off on his horse. And he rode along the Badshahi Sadak, or the Grand Trunk Road, as it's called today, that connected Kabul in the west all the way across to Chittagong in Bangladesh in the east. And as he rode, there was a song and a tune on his lips. Na 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 na. And he rode and he rode and he rode for many days, stopping to rest on the way in the serais, or the travelers' rest houses, as they were called. You see, there was just one problem though. Abdul didn't know the language that was spoken in Hindustan at that time, which was Hindustani. He knew just a few words here and there, but that didn't stop him, and that didn't deter his spirit. And so he went on. And after many days of riding, he finally reached his destination. He was in Amritsar in Punjab. And as he rode into the city, he was amazed by what he saw. The lush green wheat fields, the beautiful river Bias flowing by. He rode on, captivated by the sights. He rode through the streets and he reached the grounds where a Mela was being held, just like the one that we're having today on the World Storytelling Cafe. Now the Mela was teeming with people walking here and running there. Merchants were doing brisk business. Craftsmen were selling their wares. Children were queuing up for joy rides. Snake charmers were calling out to the people to come see the cobras. Singers were crooning away. Kala shakala, kala shakala, mera kala hai sardar, guriyan dafa karo. Kala shakala, mera kala hai sardar, guriyan dafa karo. Dancers were doing the bhangra. Balle balle, shava shava, balle balle, shava shava. Abdul was fascinated. He dismounted his horse, he tied it to a pole, and he walked around the Mela, taking in the entire scene. It was nothing like he had seen before. And now he could begin to smell the smells from the various food shops. And now he was hungry. Abdul walked to a sweet shop where all kinds of sweets were laid out. He went closer and he began to look at each tray of sweets. The shopkeeper, Ali, looked at the curious visitor and he smiled. Aiye, aiye, kya lenge? Now, Abdul didn't understand a word, of course. So he just smiled back. He bent forward and spoke one of the words he knew, which was Namaste. Now, Ali quickly realized that his customer was a tourist, and he thought to himself that this was perhaps his best chance to sell as many sweets as he possibly could that day. Now, Abdul pointed to the first tray and asked, "Ye gulab jamun, motte motte gulab jamun," which meant these are gulab jamuns, round and fat gulab jamuns. Now, for those of you watching, if you haven't had a gulab jamun before, well, you're missing a piece of heaven. Gulab jamuns are balls of wheat flour combined with milk fat, deep fried and dunked in sugar syrup. I should have ordered some for myself tonight. Abdul looked at the tray of gulab jamuns and he said the other word that he knew, which was khoob, which meant very good. Wow. And then he pointed to the next tray. And Ali said, ye jalebi, meethe jalebi. And if you haven't had jalebis yet, well, you're missing another slice of heaven. Now, jalebis are like pretzels, deep fried in oil and again dunked in sugar syrup. And the result is a tantalizingly sweet, tangy, crispy dish. And Abdul looked at it and said, khoob. And then Abdul came to the next tray and asked, ye, khaja, taza khaja, which meant these are khajas, fresh and juicy khajas. Now, khaja is a sweet made of wheat flour again, deep fried in ghee, soaked in sugar syrup. Crunchy. And now, unfortunately, the meaning of the word khaja that Abdul knew was eat up. And so he said, khoob. He took a handful of khajas and put them into his mouth very quickly. And then he bent down, said namaste, and began to walk off. When Ali shouted, hey, come back here, give me my money. But Abdul didn't understand a word, so he just kept walking. Now Ali shouted out to the guards, that man, he is walking away without paying me. Catch him, he said. And the guards ran after Abdul and caught up with him. Come with us, they ordered. Abdul smiled again. He didn't understand a word. And all he said was, namaste. The guards were bewildered by his attitude, of course, but they still took him to their chief and explained the case. And the chief ordered that Abdul be punished in the most severe way. And in those days, in Hindustan, punishment was that the criminal's head be shaved and painted black. Then he shall be made to sit on an ass and taken around town in a procession with drummers playing along. This was supposed to shame and embarrass the criminal and let everyone know that this is the fate that they would meet too if they ever dared to commit a crime. Now, Abdul didn't quite understand why he was being taken away, but he gladly went along, smiling all the time. And when the guards began shaving his head, Abdul was actually enjoying it. He wanted a haircut badly, and here he was getting one. And then when they applied the black paint on his shaved head, he happily let them do it. And when they made him sit on an ass and paraded him around the streets, Abdul was quite amazed at all the attention that he was getting. And he began to wave out to the crowds that had gathered to watch the spectacle. Now, Abdul's attitude,
What happened,
they thought there was really no point in arresting a madman like him who could end up causing more trouble. And so they released him without a warning. With a warning. Thanking the guards, he climbed on his horse and he started his way back to Kabul. He was a very happy man indeed. He had not had such an adventure on any of his earlier travels. He rode back along the Badshahi Sadak with the same song on his lips. And when he reached Kabul, everyone was eager to hear his travel stories. And so Abdul gathered everyone and began telling them about Hindustan. He said, Hindustan is such a fine country. The people are so friendly and so helpful. When a hungry man comes along, they offer him sweets and they say, khaja, which means eat up. And they give it to you for free. And then they take you to a barber, They shave your head for free. They paint your head a black so that you don't look bald. And this is free too. And then they give you a ride around town on an ass and they show you around for free. And what's more, they also have drummers playing along to make sure you have a good time for free. Where else would you find such hospitality? Hindustan is a great country and you must all visit the first chance that you get. So the next time any of you are planning to make a trip to Hindustan, you know what to do. And that's the end of my first story.
Whoa,
Fabulous.
that was beautiful. But I do have a request.
Yes.
That song you sang, could we travel with him along the road?
Oh yes,
with
we
that
could.
song.
Oh yes, we could.
Yes.
It's a tune. It's a very famous tune of an Afghani qawwali. A qawwali is a kind of folk song that's sung in those parts, and it's very famous in India as well. So it goes like this: na 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 na. And Abdul's already reached Kabul now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
That was brilliant. That was brilliant. And so, well, what an opening to the night! Fantastic. Now we travel across. Shall we go over land, or shall we go by sea, or shall we go by air? We don't want airports at the moment, so we'll go over land. We won't go by ass. That's a little slow. And then, well, I what's the nearest port? We ought to dock at Bristol and then go down the M4. I think, and then and stop up at Reading, where there's so we come. Oh, we weren't allowed to take the ass on the motorway, so we had to get. So she had someone picking her up by car. She's come in the theatre, and she's been taken through. She's been given whatever was on her rider, you know, the champagne and so forth that she demanded before she went on stage because she's a star, and she's walked out on stage, and the applause for Deep Throw has died down, and the curtains have closed, and they're about to open. The house lights have dimmed, and they're coming. They're just dimmed, and they came up again. And the curtains open, and there in the spotlight was Tisa Dani. And
it's Tithi Dani.
Yeah, I knew I'd get someone's name wrong. Titi Dani. And so if we can give it a huge round of applause. And are you doing some of your own poems?
Yeah, I'm going to recite my own poems, and if I get some time, then I will think about others' poem as well.
Okay, well let's and you're doing your poems both in Hindi and in English.
What would you like me to do, John?
Whatever you feel like. Some in English, some in Hindi. But it's just so good to hear poems in the language, you know, in the language of the poet. But as they're both your languages.
Yeah, that would be great. Even that would make this program interesting, as I can see some Indian audience as well. So first of all, I want to thank John for allowing me to come on this stage, and I'm very fortunate to be here among international audience. So, and I would like to say that this is my first attempt of reciting my English poems. So you may find me a bit boring sometimes. So please excuse. So apologies in advance if I make any mistakes. So just overlook it. So should I start?
I think you should start, yes.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So here is my first poem, and its title is I'm a rainbow. And as I don't have any published English poetry book, so I have taken out these printouts. And I have one published book in Hindi, but I think I will use that other time, next time. So I'm going to read my first poem. Its title is I'm a Rainbow. Consisting of alluring, exuberant colors, I'm a rainbow. Consisting of alluring, exuberant colors, I'm a rainbow. I don't have legs and hands, but I have a body, an ethereal body. Permeates from one edge to another edge. I don't have a physical body to feel and touch myself. Consisting of alluring, exuberant colors, I am a rainbow. I don't have legs and hands, but I have a body, an ethereal body. Permeates from one edge to another edge. I don't have a physical body to feel and touch myself. But the sun and droplets of rain can embrace me, caress me the same way as I caressed all the scattered myriad pieces of human subconscious. But the sun and droplets of rain can embrace me, caress me the same way as I caressed all the scattered myriad pieces of human subconscious. When they think, neither do they own the body nor on the mind, the very moment. By borrowing a few extra breaths from flowers, I fill in my invisible lungs and make my existence ubiquitous. So, this is the end of my first poem. I think this is very short. And another poem, I dedicated this poem to my niece. It was an occasion of her birthday, so it's kind of blessings for her. And nowadays, whenever there is someone's birthday, so I like to write a poem as a gift. So this poem is from my niece. Her name is Anvi, and the title of the poem is Who is Closer to the Heart, i.e. you. Just keep your playful, naughty style and gestures intact. Anvi, just keep your playful, naughty style and gesture intact. Your innocence, integrity, energy should be undaunted like mountains that cannot be shaken by anyone. Even not in those impure, stubborn, and dominating dreams which are passionate to be true in some devilish eyes. Anvi, your innocence, integrity, energy should be undaunted like mountains that cannot be shaken by anyone, even not in those impure, stubborn, and dominating dreams which are passionate to be true in some devilish eyes. Let them yearn for infinite times. They will be dashed in front of your willpower, and yes, don't forget the very special trait of mountains that they do not harm anyone and no one can harm them. See, I have put my utmost trust in you as you have grown up like a Daphne. Actually, Daphne is a flowering plant with eternal fragrance. So I thought to use this word here. As you have grown up like a Daphne, which spreads its eternal fragrance in the atmosphere, irrespective of who the passerby is. Therefore, extract goodness from anyone you meet in the journey of your life. Therefore, extract goodness from anyone you meet in the journey of your life and let not allow evil to enter your heart from any direction. Now, I would like to pray in these important words. Dear, I want you to be like this. Dear, I want you to be like this. Be a dazzling star for the eyes for your loved ones. Be a dazzling star for the eyes of for your loved ones and a smiling teardrop of ecstasy in the eyes of your parents. And a smiling teardrop of ecstasy in the eyes of your parents. In every stage of life, shine like a firefly of positivity in everyone's mind. In every stage of life, shine like a firefly of positivity in everyone's mind. So this is my second poem, ending here. And the third one is a bit longer. I don't know you how many of you are poetry lover here, but I'm truly a lover of literature of any kind. So the third poem is The Revolution. Oh, once again, I go deep into my studies. Oh, once again, I go deep into my studies. Today it's my literary night. My own, yes, my very own time. When I only concentrate on the talk of my conscience. When I only concentrate on the talk of my conscience, at that very special moment of 1 a.m., at that very special moment of 1 a.m., I see my clock near my table lamp, speaking to me, almost screaming, perhaps trying to remind me, oh, it's too late, I'm saying in my mind. Oh, it's too late, I'm saying in my mind. At that particular magical time, some divine and overwhelming music appeared that I consciously hear. At that particular magical time, some divine and overwhelming music appear that I consciously hear. I keep on hearing the fascinating cadence that is continuously falling onto my ears. I keep on hearing the fascinating cadence that is continuously falling onto my ears. It's like an unforgettable melodious song. My wonder-filled eyes are full of tears. It's like an unforgettable melodious song. My wonder-filled eyes are full of tears. This fascinating chirp has the power to take me into another world. This fascinating chirp has the power to take me into another world where I love to go blindly, unconsciously, without any prejudice but feeling thrilled. What is so marvelous about this music? This is not only music, but a complete song by a tiny little bird. This is not only music, but a complete song by a tiny little bird. She is hiding deep in the forest. She is hiding deep in the forest, has a strong, louder but sweet, angelic voice, the only voice in that Shinfield Meadows. Actually, I live in Shinfield Meadows, so I mentioned the name of Shinfield Meadows here. The only voice in that Shinfield Meadows. About being very fortunate, we have been informed by the local council as we are surrounded by those words, sorry, as we are surrounded by those birds that are gradually getting extinct. Maybe the birds realize this fact. Maybe the birds realize this fact. That's why, out of their 40 species, here comes the impressive and leading voice, striving hard to regain the loss is her choice. Here comes the impressive and leading voice, striving hard to regain the loss is her choice. To convince everyone, be it the time of foggy midnight or dawn with the ray of hope, be it the time of foggy midnight or dawn with the ray of hope, a musical note from her neck swims through the air. A musical note from her neck swims through the air, meaning everything is not yet finished. Sitting quietly will not bring revolution. Meaning everything is not yet finished. Sitting quietly will not bring revolution. Now I feel the dancing rhythms riding on the air. I wonder this little creature is fully awake for the whole night. Keeps on composing a variety of lively songs, whether they are on a spring, summer, or of winter. But I am not satisfied with these speculations. I wonder, does this single bird have a power of premonition? I wonder, does this single bird have a power of premonition? Or is she representing sudden change of climate? Maybe she is worried for her existence in this human overlapped earth. Maybe she is worried for her existence in this human overlapped earth. Meanwhile, the rest of the birds also wake up on her call. Meanwhile, the rest of the birds also wake up on her call because she gives them the illusion. Because she gives them the illusion of divine order in their sleep. In reality, they were enthused by her. In reality, they were enthused by her. I'm not untouched by this either. I'm not untouched by this either. I'm constantly searching on the internet. Who is the king or queen of these notes? I am continuously and constantly searching on the internet. Who is the king or queen of these notes? Hearing the sounds of many birds, but I can't get that powerful voice, what I hear in this real world. Today, one lesson I have learned by heart. Today, one lesson I have learned by heart. Revolution needs just one strong evocation, what emerges from a born leader. Today, one lesson I have learned by heart, revolution needs just one strong evocation, what emerges from a born leader. Just one entity is enough to begin and lead a revolution. The revolution is the synonym for the great transformation. The revolution is the synonym for the great transformation. So this is the end of my third poem. I hope you all are engaged with me because my poems are, I think, they have kind of serious tone. I'm a very sensitive.
Serious is fine in poetry. Serious is great. Could we have something in Hindi?
In Hindi?
Yeah, just
you would like
just to finish your set. Something in Hindi would be marvelous.
Okay, no problem. Yeah. So let me check my mobile for Hindi poems. I have some very new poems which I have written on this app of my mobile. So I would like to recite that. So this is also a serious poem. It has a very sad tone and it's about loneliness of a girl, whatever she feels and and how she acts, what is her gesture in her loneliness. So I'm going to recite it in Hindi. This is very new. Even I wrote this the day before yesterday. Its title is वह जो दुबक कर बैठी है. वह जो दुबक कर बैठी है, क्यों काटती रहती है हर वक्त वह अपने होठ. क्यों काटती रहती है हर वक्त वह अपने होठ. क्या घायल होने में उसे मजा आता है. क्यों काटती रहती है हर वक्त वह अपने होठ. क्या घायल होने में उसे मजा आता है. हजार टोकने वाली आवाजें उसके ज़हनी दायरे को एक अपवित्र मर्द की तरह क्यों नहीं छू पाती. हजार टोकने वाली आवाजें उसके ज़हनी दायरे को एक अपवित्र मर्द की तरह क्यों नहीं छू पाती. दायरा वही, हाँ वही दायरा जिसमें उसकी ढीठ, बेहिस, बेमकसद उदासी जो सूखी पपड़ाई त्वचा का कछुआ बन दुबकी बैठी है. दायरा वही, हाँ वही दायरा जिसमें उसकी ढीठ, बेहिस, बेमकसद उदासी जो सूखी पपड़ाई त्वचा का कछुआ बन दुबकी बैठी है. जिसे पता है वह खोखली है, जिसे पता है वह खोखली है, तो क्या अलगोजे की तरह नहीं बच सकती. जिसे पता है वह खोखली है, तो क्या अलगोजे की तरह नहीं बच सकती. So this is my short Hindi poem.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot for giving me this opportunity.
Yeah, it's lovely, and just to hear stuff in different languages is just perfect. We are the World Storytelling Cafe after all, so you know it's kind of appropriate.
Here, Deepta must be understanding whatever I was saying.
Yes, I did.
I just have an idea.
Yes, I think the Hindi was just so beautiful to listen to. A few Urdu words in between as well.
Yeah. Even I have a special love for Urdu words and Urdu language. It's a kind of, you can say it has a lot of respect in its tone.
Yes.
So I like Urdu words between. I love to mix Urdu words with Hindi.
And isn't it a mixed language anyway, a mixture of Persian and,
Yes, yes.
and Hindi?
Hindi has so many different words. Some are from Farsi, some are from Arabic, and some from Urdu. And Hindi basically comes from Sanskrit, so it has some original Sanskrit words as well.
Just like English, John.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I was saying, well, the root of English is Sanskrit anyway, but
Yeah, Hindi is very flexible language.
Yeah, and the and Romany, of course, is still. I mean, the Gypsy languages is still it's got that even closer Sanskrit base. So there was a group of Gypsy children went over for a school on a trip to India, and they could talk to the children were talking to each other. In one was talking in Romany and the other was talking in either Urdu or Hindi. It's and these children were able to communicate from thousands of miles. It's language is fascinating. I can never work it out, but it's so fascinating. But unless Manny's got a poem in his pocket that he wants to read, there's Manny, we'd love to have you on at some point. It would be, but I think we can. Deepsa, have you got a second story for us?
Yes, sure.
So you like to be announced, as is befitting queens. Yeah, okay. So, Deepsa, we are proud to ask you back to the stage for one more story. And can everyone put their hands together and welcome Deepsa back? And you may start whenever the spirit takes you.
Thank you so much, John. So I was prepped to do one story, but because this is a Mela and we're all having fun, I'm going to do another one, which is, and we're supposed to have a singer. So now that we don't have the singer, I thought I'll do a story about a story and a song. And I did a 45-minute version of this story, same time last year in my hometown, which is Chennai, or Madras, as it was called once upon a time. And I did that show with my brother, who's a musician, and a friend of mine who's a singer. So I'm going to do a really crunched version of that one for you. And this one is a folk tale as well, and it's called A Story and a Song, and it's a folk tale from Tamil Nadu. And it goes like this. So once upon a time, there lived a little girl, and her name was Lakshmi. Now, Lakshmi grew up with her grandmother, and her grandmother fed her on a great diet of stories and songs. And Lakshmi grew up listening to those stories. But when she was old enough and she had to leave home to study, she forgot the story, she forgot the songs. And by, her life changed. She got married, went away to a town, and began a new life with her husband. And soon she got busy with the affairs of the house. While her husband would go out to work, she would take care of the house. She would do the cooking and the cleaning. And she would be very tired every day after doing all the chores. And so one afternoon, as she lay down on her bed for her afternoon nap, something really strange happened. Now, inside Lakshmi were trapped the story and the song. For so many years, they stayed inside her, and now they rankled for a release. And this afternoon, the story and the song were plotting their revenge. As Lakshmi fell into a deep sleep with her mouth open as she snored, the story jumped out. And the song was not to be left behind. When Lakshmi opened her mouth again to snore, the song jumped out. And now, out were the story and the song while Lakshmi was sleeping. I'm a story I have to be told. I'm a song I have to be sung. I'm a story I have to be told. I'm a song I have to be sung. Mba, 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 I'm a story I have to be told. I'm a song I have to be sung. Mba, 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 Stories are for the young and the old. Shut me up and I'll go cold. Stories are for the young and the old. Shut me up and I'll go cold. Songs are made of rhythm, notes, and rhyme. Leave them unsung. There's no bigger, badder crime. Songs are made of rhythm, notes, and rhyme. Leave them unsung. There's no bigger crime. There's no bigger crime. There's no bigger crime. And so the story and the song sang this song, and they decided to change their form. The story took on the form of a pair of shoes and went and stayed outside the door. The song took on the form of a man's coat and went and hung itself on the peg. And as Lakshmi slept, there were the story and the song. Now it was time for her husband to come back home. And as he entered, he saw a pair of shoes he hadn't seen before. They were male shoes, of course. And as he walked into the house, trying to think who the visitor might be, he saw the coat on the peg. And you know, 2 and 2 can only equal 25. And there he was. Suspicion filled his head. He went straight to where Lakshmi was and asked her, "Who is visiting?" "Visiting? We don't have any visitors. I just woke up. What are you talking about?" she said. "Well, whose shoes are those? And whose coat is that?" "What shoes? And what coat?" "Lakshmi, don't you think you can get the better of me? I know what you've been up to, and your game's up. Out with it now," he threatened. And Lakshmi, the naive, innocent woman that she was, she had no clue what her husband was talking about. So she looked at him rather quizzically and she said, "I'm not quite sure I understand. What are you blaming me about?" But the husband would have none of it. He threw his things into a corner. He picked up the pillow and off he went to sleep that night at the temple of Hanuman, the monkey god. And poor Lakshmi was back at home, bewildered about what was going on. She looked at the pair of shoes. She looked at the coat. She had never seen these before. She looked under the bed to see if someone was hiding. Nothing. Now Lakshmi hoped that her husband would have a change of heart and that he might come back later. But evening became night. There was no sign of him. Now, In those days, people lit earthen lamps in their house for light. And so Lakshmi, like she did every day, had lit up a little earthen lamp and kept it out of the house. She waited for her husband to come back, but there was no sign of him. And she was beginning to feel very sleepy. And so she put out that lamp, went to bed, hoping that her husband might come back later. And now you see, strange things happen in Indian stories. When lamps get put out, do you know where the flames go? Well, all the flames that get put out from all the houses jump in the air and they go to the temple of the monkey god, where they sit around and gossip about the goings on in the people's houses that they belong to. And so all the flames had gathered that night, except for the flame in Lakshmi's house. Now he was a little late because Lakshmi had put him out quite late as well. And so he made his way quickly and joined the rest of his friends. "Where have you been? What's taken you so long?" asked his friends. "Oh, you see, the house that I am in, there was this huge problem. The man and the woman of the house had a big fight and an argument. Now the man's come away and he's sleeping in this temple right here." "Oh, and what was the argument about?" "You see, when this lady was sleeping, something very strange happened. Two things jumped out of her mouth. It seems one was a story and one was a song. And the story became a pair of shoes, and the song became a coat. And they're there at home. And the man, he thinks this woman is up to no good." Not far away from where the lamp flames were talking was the hero of the story. He heard them, and he knew he had made a big mistake. And so quickly, he got up. He picked up his pillow and his bedding, he rolled it up, tucked it under his arm, and went straight back home. And there, he saw his beautiful wife, sleeping like a baby. He went close to her, and with his hand, he stroked her head. He woke her up gently, and she got up. "Oh, you're back," she said. "Yes, I'm sorry about what happened. But tell me, Lakshmi, tell me that story and sing me that song." "What story? What song?" That's the end of that story.
Whoa.
I
And
think we have a singer. We don't need to bring another singer.
yeah, we have a singer. You have in fact turned this you both saved the day. Siddhani and Deepsa. I'm so grateful because it's always a disaster when when someone who's on the way to the theatre, their band breaks down or something and it doesn't happen, and everyone else steps in and makes it work. So you both did beautifully tonight, and I've now got to I know about those suites, and when I went back in the 70s, when I was with a poetry music show, we used to drive back in the middle of the night. And the only place in Birmingham that was open was Indian restaurant or cafe that the taxi drivers used. That was open all night, and all it served was vegetable curry, but it had the most fantastic sweet counter.
Right.
And so that, of course, it didn't matter how hot the curry was because those sweets just take the burn out of your mouth. And so, and I, ever since then, for 40 years, I keep going into Indian restaurants hoping for a decent sweet counter. And I haven't seen one. I haven't seen one in this country for the last 40 years. So I don't know whether there's one. They just don't exist. And so my life is empty.
John, there is one restaurant in Reading Town Center, actually, and its name is Royal Tandoori.
Royal
And
Tandoori.
I have worked there as a chef, so I know about the taste. And when Deepta was naming gulab jamun and jalebi as sweet dishes, so I was remembering my recipe, because everybody keeps on asking about the recipe, which because I have a different style of making gulab jamuns. So my friends like my photographs, which I keep on sharing on Facebook as my recipe. So I'm telling everyone, if you would love to taste those dishes, you are cordially invited to my
When
home. You can
lockdown's
come
over,
anytime.
you're only 30 miles, 40 miles down the road from me. So so guess who's knocking on the door? And I've got another sort of literary question, because it's always interesting to hear different when you're listening to poetry, different forms, and your poetry is quite formalistic, and that repeated line, and then you repeat it and then go off from it. Is that a traditional? Is that a form or one you've done yourself?
No. This is I can say this is Hindi style of reading poetry, which in this style Hindi poems are read and recited. So I have I have adopted that style, so that won't go.
No, it's
from
very
me.
good.
That won't leave me.
I was interested because it was obviously a form.
It's a kind of because we need to emphasize some lines. That's why we repeat, to give a stress to some lines.
Absolutely. And for people like me who drift off in the middle and watch the butterfly outside the window when people are talking, there's it's sort of, oh yes, that's what they said. It's a very realistic form in terms of the communication between speaker and listener. I loved it, and in fact, I loved everything about tonight. It's a shame we didn't have the Bhangra dancing. It would have been wonderful to have a workshop for the people that didn't know about it. And it's a shame that we didn't have the singer. But I think we had ourselves. You created a literary Mela for a festival for us. So thank you both. Big round of applause for both our artists.
Thank you very much. No.
Thank you.
For having
It was wonderful.
And Titi, you've got a whole night coming up with us, haven't you? You've got a whole day which I should have in front of me, and I haven't.
And that day, John, can I read my father's story?
Oh, please do.
Translated story.
That's what I was
Today
going to ask.
I could not find that, so I will try to find out because I have some days in between, so I will try to find out.
And if you mix your set between, because I think everyone enjoyed the Hindi poem, just wave your hands.
But do they understand?
It's to do with rhythm.
It's rhythm.
I enjoy listening to poetry in languages I can't understand a word of, because but especially spoken poetry, it's
next in my singing. Next show, I would like to recite some poems which I have both versions in English and Hindi, so you would be able to connect properly.
So we see you on the 24th of July.
24th of July. Thank you, Bianca. I knew if we carried on that conversation long enough, you would have managed to work it out. So the 24th of July. So what we've got coming up this week, unfortunately, tomorrow I've had to change round again because of a different kind of illness, but there's problems. So the Doyle family won't be on Tomorrow Night Live. But we have another poet. We have and she's doing alphabet poems for children. So we've got Claire Bevan. Then we've got another storyteller. The Claire's is pre-recorded. We've got a live storyteller on Wednesday night, Peter Optical, and Friday. I'm really looking forward to it because I loved last night. Last night we had, for those that missed it, I know some of you saw it. We had Paro Ananda. Yeah, and she was wonderful, and but it was quite deep and very serious subjects. But on Friday she's doing doing a set for children at 6 o'clock, and I'm so looking forward to that. And and so on through the weeks, and there's loads of stuff, and Lucy Wood is doing has her healing stories, and Chip Collier is doing fantastic sort of projects that start next week, and some have started this week. So it would take me a whole program, no artist will get a word in if I listed everything that's got coming up. And then in a couple of weeks, of course, we've got our 100th teller, that we've had in lockdown. And so we've got Liz Weir coming on for as our 100th teller in a couple on a Sunday night, I think, on a couple of weeks' time. But for now, thank you both. Thank you both for rescuing me for a start and giving us such a fantastic night. And I think there's a happy life, if anyone's watching. And Aparo had all her stuff, or any contributions made to her last night to a charity that works with children in the slum, in the same slum that Slumdog Millionaire was filmed in. And I think anything that goes into the hat tonight, will come to me, and I'll divert it to that charity. If anyone's listening out there, it'll be because it's. I think it would be quite appropriate for the last two nights. But thank you. Good night, everyone.
Brilliant.
As long
Thank
as
you
no
so
one's got
much.
any questions.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.